Let me ask you something right out of the gate. What happens when a viral political narrative collapses in real time, after millions of people already believed it? Because that's exactly what just happened in Minnesota. For days, MAGA influencers claimed they had uncovered a massive fraud scandal involving daycare centers. The story exploded. Millions watched. Politicians amplified it. And now, local journalists actually went to the locations. They pulled security footage. They asked real questions. And the entire story started falling apart. So here's the real question. Was this about fraud? Or was it about targeting a community and hoping nobody would check the facts? If that question already has you reacting, hit the like button, and let's break this down. Alright, let's rewind. About a week ago, a YouTuber named Nick Shirley released a video claiming he had uncovered widespread fraud at daycare centers in Minnesota, specifically targeting Somali-owned childcare facilities. The video showed him and his crew showing up at daycare locations, knocking on doors, demanding to see children, and implying that because the doors were locked or staff didn't engage, these centers must be fake. That video went nuclear. It was amplified by major MAGA figures. It spread across social media. And suddenly, millions of Americans were convinced they were watching proof of a massive scandal. Now, to be clear, fraud does happen. Minnesota has dealt with real fraud cases in the past. People have been investigated, charged, and convicted under multiple administrations. But here's the thing, how you investigate matters. And showing up with cameras, multiple people, and demanding access to children? That's not journalism. That's not law enforcement. That's intimate. Dadion. Here's where everything changed. CBS News Minnesota, local journalists, actually went to the daycare centers. They spoke to the owners. They reviewed licensing records. They obtained security footage from the exact day Nick Shirley showed up. And that footage? It showed children arriving earlier in the day. It showed families dropping kids off and picking them up, often through back entrances, which is common for safety. In other words, the kids were there. The reason Shirley didn't see them? Because daycare centers do not allow strangers to walk in demanding to see children. Which brings us to the obvious point that somehow got lost in the outrage. Daycare doors are locked, on purpose, for child safety. That alone dismantles a huge part of the Vera L narrative. The daycare owners, many of whom are Somali Americans, explained that staff were afraid. They described harassment, out-of-state phone calls, threats, people accusing them of crimes with zero evidence. One owner said, "When one Somali does something wrong, suddenly we all get punished." And that matters, because criticizing alleged fraud is one thing. Turning an entire community into a suspect class is something else entirely. And the comment section? Absolutely on fire. One comment said, "They need to sue this guy for defamation." That tells you how serious people think this was. When livelihoods and reputations are hit, lawsuits become a real conversation. Another comment said, "Demanding to see kids is just creepy." That comment blew up, and for good reason. Imagine a stranger showing up at your child's daycare with a camera, demanding access. Any responsible center would shut that down immediately. Someone else wrote, "Did he really just go to a daycare and demand to see a child as a total stranger?" That's confusion mixed with disbelief. People watching this back are realizing how abnormal that behavior actually was. Then you have comments from daycare workers themselves. One said, "I worked in daycare. We kept the front door locked to protect the kids." Another said, "They don't let strangers in. They are protecting children." These aren't political opinions. These are lived experiences. And then there are the angrier comments. This whole administration is trash. The BS needs to be called out every single time. Those comments reflect something deeper, exhaustion. People are tired of viral outrage replacing evidence. But then there's also a pushback crowd. People saying, "You can't ignore fraud." And they're right. Fraud should never be ignored. But here's the key difference. Investigating fraud requires evidence, not vibes. This story matters far beyond Minnesota, because it shows how quickly misinformation can snowball when politics, algorithms, and outrage align. A video gets released. Powerful figures boost it. Millions accept it as truth. And by the time real journalists verify the facts, the damage is already done. This isn't about left versus right. This is about responsibility. If you accuse people of crimes, especially crimes involving children, you better be right. And if you're wrong, You don't just say oops and move on. This is also a reminder that viral does not mean verified. And if you care about the truth, you can't only demand accountability when it fits your politics. So what happens now? The daycare centers continue cooperating with regulators. Local journalists keep digging, and the national conversation slowly corrects itself, but not before real harm was done. The bigger question is whether we learn anything from this. Do we slow down before sharing? Do we wait for evidence? Or do we keep letting outrage drive reality? I want to hear from you. Do you think this was reckless misinformation or justified scrutiny? Where do you draw the line between investigation and harassment? And should viral creators be held to the same standards as journalists? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Seriously, I read them. If you agree that facts matter, smash the like button. Subscribe to Breaking Supporters for bold U.S. news commentary and real analysis. And in the next video, we're diving into another viral political story that's already starting to crack under scrutiny. Stay informed. Stay skeptical. I'll see you next time.